This is the place to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Innovation Days.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Morten from Inkish. I have today the pleasure of talking to my good friend Rob from Contiweb in the Netherlands. So welcome on Inkish, Rob.
Good afternoon, Morten. Thank you for inviting me. It's great to see you again.
It's always nice to talk to people. I was actually this year a little bit surprised because when we sent out the invites to all the exhibitors at Hunkeler, and we do this for free, as you know, I was expecting a lot of people to do that, and now they are starting to come only 2 weeks before. So now I'm a little bit stressed. But it's always nice because.
So now you have to do 24/7 then, huh?
I have to say no to the next ones coming in, but we will have the chance, of course, also to talk to people at Innovation Days. But it always surprises me about this industry. There's so many clever people and so many smart technologies. And I mean, a company like Contiweb, you are to some extent depending on somebody else selling something before you can sell anything, right?
Yeah, that's the toughest part, Martin, to be honest. We are always, let's say, supplying as an auxiliary supplier. It's called so nice and neat. But we indeed depending on the print providers selling their equipment, and then we come in play. But we do great stuff, so that's.
I know that, and I was. Sorry, no.
No. I said I can't start complaining, but nobody listens. So let's stop complaining and telling.
The problem is, I guess, that complaining doesn't bring us forward, right? And I think that is that this industry is too good sometimes of complaining rather than bringing us forward. I think there's a lot of opportunities. One of the things I can't help think about is that we spoke a little bit about it before the camera was turned on. The vast experience that Contiweb has from being let's say an auxiliary company, as you say, but in the analog space and how we moved into the digital space. I think that journey is actually it's not something you just do, right?
No, it took us, let's say, when we started digital in the digital print arena, so to say, it was 2015 to 2016. Since then, we sold over 100 auto splicers now in the digital world. We have more than 50 units of remoistening, including maybe with the silicone option if you do inline finishing. So it's quite. By the way, if you talk about remoistening, that's the last 4 years. On the auto splicing, we do more years of experience. But that's correct. It takes a long time to find yourself in the industry. Yeah.
As a part of our, let's say, preparations for Hunkeler Innovation Days, actually seen 2 Contiweb solutions during that one. The first one was in Telford with Rico, where the VC80,000 has one of your remoisturizing systems installed. And the other one was with Rotomail last week, where we were filming about new Hunkeler installation. And I know that you wanted me, or Eric wanted me to go and film it, but of respect for my paying customer Hunkeler in this case, I didn't even answer you because I was.
No, I can imagine. No, that is actually a quite interesting installation because that is the one directly on a finishing, and this type it's Müller Martini. So an auto splicer direct on a Müller Martini finishing line, that is let's say it's a good journey, but it is starting off because when we talk in instance about reel-to-reel or reel-to-finish application on printing, we now more often talk about auto splicing and auto rewinding, but in the finishing it's not so common. So for that reason I said Rotomail is very good if you are there to look at least at the unit.
But I didn't go and see it, and I was also like, I wouldn't say that I was astonished because I know your equipment, but I was, and surprised is maybe not the right word either, but being interested in technology, you really understand that this is offering new kind of opportunities to the market, and I think that is getting back to what I was saying just before, I think that is one of the things that I find so interesting being in this industry. There's so many smart people continuing to develop technology that is almost beyond, right? So, and Contiweb is obviously one of them. I think that sometimes I think that people think of, let's say, auxiliary suppliers and substrate suppliers and consumable suppliers as something that is not as important as, let's say, the famous brands of the printing technology. But actually, you're the ones that often glue things together and make sure that you get the real finished products, or have the ability to run non-stop, or to dry, even if you talk about the analog world. I mean, the things that you do are absolutely necessary for being successful printers, right?
Exactly, and that comes also to the theme at the Hunkeler Innovation Days, called Connect, and that is what we actually do. We try to connect, we try to interface to the printing heart itself, and as being auxiliary suppliers, we have multiply print providers. So that means not doing the job every time again, but the experiences. That is what counts. The experience we have with one could also be an experience you have with the other. That doesn't mean that we share information from one print provider to the other. That is how we are, a trusted partner to be in that arena. But it is successful because at the end of the day, you're talking about an experience you can share. And most important, the printer itself, the user itself, are a benefit of it. And that comes to what we experienced in the last couple of years, to be more in this digital market present, is that we have a lot of learnings on the analog side, and they cope with the same things logistically, connection. You're talking about paper, right? You talk about handling paper, and that's our experience. We have a great, let's say, feel for where we should connect better and how we can enhance. And that is also what we would like to present on Hunkeler Innovation Days.
One of the things I asked Rico about when I was visiting them in Telford was about the remoistering, because I think it's quite interesting. Because if you look a little bit back on, let's say, analog and digital, let's say that I go 20 years back, it was like the relative humidity on offset you wanted to be relatively high. On digital print, you wanted to be almost as low as possible, even though yet you could gain static electricity to it, right? Today, when we talk about fast inkjet presses, basically the high temperatures that is used to dry the paper is stressing the paper enormously, right? So therefore, the remoisturizing is that it's just not something that is nice to have. That is something that is like almost like a necessity to have, right?
Absolutely, and that is also the experience we have. Knowing also that digital printing is different from analog printing, but drying is there, let's say, the most critical point. And if you come to a higher temperature, we always said, we would try to prepare the properties of the paper. You're throwing a lot of ink on it, you try to dry it, you dried out the paper, and then we would like to change and to repair the properties, but you are not able to, because what you also do is with printing, you have different areas of ink, different areas, and that means also the behavior of the paper will change the properties due to drying. But what you try to fix is that it must be stable later in the atmosphere. So it must be stable to say, I put an amount of moisture back into the paper to not restore the properties, but to make it, let's say, less vulnerable to atmospheric moisture content, so that you have a flat product, that it doesn't weigh, that your book is closed, etc. And then, paper is there an important factor. It's not only the drying capacity you put in, so the heat you throw on that paper, it's also the paper property itself. And that is very difficult. It's a difficult journey. I was
just wondering, because I think that everybody in the industry knows what I'm saying right now, but still, I'm a little bit curious about how much collaboration. What I want to say is that whether it's analog or digital, there's like if we start with the analog, you have the plate, the water balance, the ink, the paper, the whatever drying you have on it, right? That has been like explored over centuries. People have a good understanding on how that works, and even though it goes very fast, you can still maintain no smearing and really good paper qualities and paper, let's say, parameters for binding it afterwards. When it comes to the digital side, it may be that the components are a little bit different, but still you have the print head, you have the ink, you have the frequency of how you're inking the paper, you have the substrate itself, and then you have the drying. So I mean, the components are more or less the same as in analog, but everything is like renewed because now it's many more different players that are working together in order to get these
And
things
not
going.
only that, Martin, don't forget an important factor here is that every image, every part of that paper could be different printed. Yeah. So, and if you think that you dry it here and on the other side you have a different ink balance, in analog, you are more talking about the same going through. It's a higher speed, and a higher web width. But at the end of the day, you also, let's say, play the fact that you are changing the paper properties because you get rid of the water to make sure that your paper is dried or your ink is dry. But the digital, you have an image now, and a few seconds later there is no image.
Totally different.
And you still want to repair that paper. That makes it difficult.
I was asking also because I was thinking that, how much a company like Contiweb, how much or if it's important at all, do you collaborate with both the paper manufacturers and the ink manufacturers and the digital print OEMs? More and more. Okay, because I was just thinking that because
if you compare it to the analog world, let's say every print provider in digital has their own ink, so we need to very closely work with them together. If it comes to paper, we even here have now a test possibility to say we will, let's say, use that paper in a line where we dry it out as coming out of a printing facility, right? And then you put moisture back, just to learn the properties of that paper. And on top of that, because we don't have the printing machine, otherwise we had multiple printing machines here in the house. That makes a little bit, let's say, expensive. But now
then you get to have a new house again.
Yeah, we need to move again. But it is important to have that conversation with the print provider, because at that point they know exactly what they do with the ink on a certain type of paper, and now things needs to come together. So in the last year, we spent a lot of time developing a test environment in such a way that you can say, because print providers are used to do that. The customer, a printer has a request, can you put this on this type of paper? And they go to their own facility, they do the tests. Now on top of that, we try to let's say, make the same environment to do the test as good and bad. We can do that in-house, and at least to identify what kind of necessities we have to put in, or a change of elements to make it a full 100%. By the way, that's difficult, have a full 100% solution for a process. I can tell you on auto splicing, that's a full 100%. I have a splice reliability, it's close to 100%. But on a DFA, on a process where you have the parameter paper, which is still a living product, you put ink on, and then you need to bring back that water level. It's a tough situation.
I mean, we spoke about your historic knowledge about, for example, the splices, right? But you also have a historic knowledge about how to dry paper in web applications. Is that something where you're like, okay, can we use some of that knowledge, maybe even to
We
consider
share
developing
it.
something
We
into
share
the?
it with print providers. Yes. Sometimes we have this the occasion that we are on an engineering and a development level, that we exchange ideas what we had for
Okay.
let's say call it analog printing.
Okay. So that basically means that instead of building technology specifically for retrofitting, then it's
Yeah.
more question about being on an R&D level where you say that, hey guys, we know if we do this, the output is this, and that might benefit you
Yeah.
if you do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense, of course, right? So when you look at the products that you do, because the majority of what you do is, I'm not saying that it's off the shelf, but it is more or less the same products that is then produced by order, or is it also a lot of projects that are specifically built to order with specific customers?
We at this time, except from the DFA, we always build on order.
Okay.
You have to imagine that an auto splicer and a rewinder will take 18 to 20 weeks to supply that, which is still, let's say, call it in the analog world, is very fast, because now analog press, if you buy such a press, you have to be patient for probably 12, 14, or even 18 months. We are still talking about weeks of delivery, but we always build on order. On the DFA, we have a more frequent request, and some of the long lead items in that part we just have on stock. But it's a little bit a different ball game. When you look at an auto splicer, there are a lot of let's say production parts, so parts like frames, and that's not off the shelf. You need to book that.
Rob, Innovation Days, as we spoke about, we're going to see each other again in a couple of weeks in Lucerne. What are you showing at the booth, and what can people expect visiting your booth?
Yeah, we have at least for the DFA 2 print providers where we can show the device real life. So last Innovation Days, we had a static unit on the booth. This time I'm able to show you part of the splicing head, so from our auto splicer. That head we use in the unwinding, so the automatic unwinder part, as well in the rewinder. So I can at least have something on the booth. It is not very big, but I can show you how quickly you can make a splice preparation. So that's nice. And we will talk about, let's say, payback analysis. We will have some case studies, very good case studies. We will talk about the connection between machines and how you can do a better job together. And that's great because there is now a platform where we talk about one language to have a better interface. We are part of that, and that is great. And we will implement what we call smart real data. It's something what we have in the analog world. It's web data. It's actually you scan a barcode from a paper reel, and you take all the information in the auto splicer, but we can add information to that real data and then provide other parts in the machine. Or for instance, when you have a leftover, for instance, to give you an idea, in 90 grams of paper, you have about 80,000 A4 copies on that reel. Okay, small
8,000. 8,000.
80,000.
80,000.
So it's only 420 web width. It's a small reel, full size, 80,000. So say you have a couple of jobs and you finish 20,000 A4 copies left. Who knows? It's not written on the outside anymore. We know. And we will provide you a barcode sticker added to that reel. It says the length. It's still transferred to 20,000 A4. So you can put it next to the machine. You can bring it back into your warehouse. At least it is an identification of what we do with the information out of the auto splicer. Because when you have an auto splicer, I know exactly how many meters it's coming off that reel. And I can estimate the full size reel was X amount of meters. So that is something we do. I think that 95% of our auto splicers in the analog world has this feature, and we never used it in digital arena. And this is something what we said. Let's be honest. I mean, we have the information. Let's provide it back to the printer and make use of it. And that is a step into much more job creation, job management, etc. So we are able to have this information, and we will provide it. It's small tooling to start with. It can grow into something big for future.
And that just shows again that I mean, the people or the companies that own data basically own their business, right? Because if they don't know exactly how much paper you have left, you probably end up buying too much new, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you say, I have small amount of rest reels next to machine or back to the warehouse, it's not the kilograms you throw away. It's the possibility of a printed A4 copy you could sell. And if you transfer, and it visit the booth, Martin, and I invite everybody, let's talk about this, because there's a lot of money as leftovers. You could really make use of it with an auto splicer, but also on the auto rewinder side. You know, with an auto splicer, I said, no matter what amount of paper you have on that reel, use it, because you never stop. You are continuous printing. And we have a lot of good case studies to prove that this is worth the money. This is where you talk about automation and quick return of investment.
Fantastic. I can't help be there. I mean, I'm looking forward to get to Lucerne, and we have already now an agreement that we should talk again when we get to the show. So I look forward.
Then I can show you.
That, of course. You can. I don't know if it's who of us will be there. We will be quite a lot of people at Innovation Days, but we will for sure come by. That's great. But Rob, thank you very much for your time here in English. I think it was wonderful to get a little insight in both the where you are now, but also some of the opportunities that might come around the corner, and of course what to expect at Innovation Days. So. Thank you very much, sir, and see you soon.
Thank you, and see you soon in Lucerne.
Definitely.
Thank you, Martin.